Hey, it's Bill Corbett here with Port City Living. I want to talk to you about compensation. How do real estate agents get paid these days in a real estate transaction? Well, traditionally, the seller would pay the commission or compensation for both the listing agent firm and the buyer agent firm. But as of August 1st, that has all changed. So for those who are thinking about selling, guess what? You are no longer required to pay the buyer agent firm compensation. You're no longer required. Now, could that affect you in an unpositive way when it comes to marketing your home? Potentially. But let's look at how the tables have turned and how things have changed. So, if you are thinking about buying a home and you come to me and say, Billy, I want to buy a home, then we're going to sit down and we're going to make sure you're approved with the lender, and that's out of the way. Then we're going to talk about your hopes and dreams of buying a home, and then we're going to discuss compensation. So buyer agents specifically, can set a rate or a percentage for what they will work for as a buyer agent. Now, I don't want to give numbers as to what is traditional or what is expected, because that number is negotiable and can change depending on the agent and the firm. But let's just say that, I have a certain percentage that I work for. Okay. We discussed that. You understand it. I explained to you that the seller might not be paying this percentage for me. So if they're not going to pay it, then guess who does pay it? Well, unfortunately, that means you, the buyer, will have to pay it. Now, there's a couple of scenarios, and I don't want to get this too convoluted and confusing because it can be. But let's just say, for example, that we're going to look at a house and they happen to be paying that amount of percentage that I'm working for. This particular seller is like, yeah, I'll pay a buyer agent firm commission. I have no problem with that. We're going to do it, I guess, if you want to call it the traditional way. Well, if they're going to pay that and that's what I require, then you're good. You don't have to pay anything. But let's say, for example, we look at a house where they're not paying all of it. Well, if they're not paying all of it, and this is what I require to work, then you're going to have to pay the balance. Or let's say they're not paying any of it, then you're going to have to pay all of it. Now, there's various combinations of how this could all play out, okay? So we can discuss that in more detail once we get to this part of the buying process. But just know that buyers have always paid compensation. It's just been lumped into the buying process, the purchase price of the house, okay? It wasn't separated out, so it doesn't really, or never really looked like a buyer was paying the compensation, but they were. It's a little bit different now, a little bit scary for people because it is so different, but just know that this is how it works now, and this is the conversation that you will have with your buyer agent discussing how the compensation is going to play out. Traditionally, again, the seller would pay it all, but it's not necessarily the way it is these days. So for more information about compensation, just reach out to me so that we can have this discussion. I want you to understand it, and I want you to make sure that it's clear in your head, because it can be a little complicated. But professionals like me are here to make it as simple and easy as we possibly can. So call me if you have questions. We'll talk about it some more. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Bill Corbett with Port City Living.